You don't need a lifetime to change your life. You just need 1 hour. One single uninterrupted hour. Not someday, not when you're ready, not when the timing is perfect, just 1 hour. Today. That hour is not ordinary. It is the line between who you are and who you could become. It's the line between drifting through another day and finally choosing to lead your life instead of watching it happen, because the truth is, time isn't the problem. The problem is how you've been trained to use it. Most people don't even realize they're handing over the steering wheel of their life every morning to distraction, to urgency, to noise. The alarm goes off, and instead of rising with purpose, they hit snooze. Not because they're tired, but because they've forgotten that every day is a vote, a decision, a moment of creation. And the way you start your day, that's the blueprint for everything that follows. But imagine this, you take 1 hour, just one, you guard it like a secret. You don't answer texts, you don't scroll, you don't waste it, you invest it in yourself. You rise before the noise, and for 1 hour, the world waits. You pick up a notebook, you write, not for others, for yourself. You move your body, not to impress anyone, but to wake your mind. You study a new idea, not because someone told you to, but because you've decided to become more than yesterday. 1 hour, one sacred space, one unbreakable commitment to the person you claim you want to be. Because if you can't give yourself 1 hour, how will you ever build a life you respect? How can you expect the world to believe in you when you haven't yet proved to yourself that you're worth showing up for? This isn't about productivity, it's not about hustle, it's about reclaiming something sacred, your attention, your intention, your direction. We live in a world addicted to noise, constant movement, endless stimulation, but real transformation, it happens in the quiet, in the hours no one sees, in the decisions you make when the room is still and your excuses are loud. That's where power is forged. You don't need to change your life overnight, but you must decide today that this hour matters. You must choose to show up even when no one is clapping. You must be willing to invest in the version of you no one can see yet, the one still buried under layers of self-doubt, fear, and delay. Because here's the truth, you are not tired, you are unaligned. You are not lost, you are distracted. You are not unmotivated, you are uninspired by your own lack of commitment. When you treat yourself like a second priority, the world will follow your lead. But when you start honoring that hour, when you treat it like sacred ground, you tell your mind, your body, your spirit, I am serious now. I am no longer available for excuses. I am no longer tolerating delay. I am no longer waiting to be rescued. And the universe responds differently to a person who has decided. This hour isn't a task, it's a transformation ritual. It's the contract you sign with your future every day, not with ink, with action. Because the old you, the one that hits snooze, that scrolls aimlessly, that avoids the mirror, that makes promises only to break them, that version begins to dissolve the moment you say no more. And you prove it not with words, but with 1 hour of aligned action every single day. Let others sleep, let others talk, let others wait for motivation to arrive like a package on their doorstep. You build quietly, daily, patiently. And while they wonder where your strength came from, you'll know it came from the hour they were too busy to protect. Every great transformation begins in the dark, not with applause, not with validation, but with silence. While the world is distracted, while others are scrolling, while comfort is being sold like candy, you are chiseling away at your own limits, 1 hour at a time. That hour is where your real life begins. Because if you can sit with yourself, No noise, no audience, no reward, and still show up with intention, that's where the magic starts. That's where trust is rebuilt. That's where identity is rewritten. And that's where the version of you that you dream about gets a chance to breathe. The strongest people you've ever seen, they didn't become strong by chance. They became strong by training when no one was watching, by rising when the world was asleep, by doing the hard thing when it was the easiest to avoid. And it always starts with one small decision. I will give myself this hour. Does it matter if it feels awkward at first? It doesn't matter if you don't see the change right away. The change is already happening, not in your circumstances, in your spirit. And when your spirit shifts, everything follows. You start to walk differently. You speak with more clarity. You make fewer apologies for needing space to grow, because suddenly your mind is no longer cluttered with things that don't matter. You're no longer drowning in other people's noise. You've found a rhythm, a refuge, a ritual that brings you back to yourself. But here's the truth most people avoid. Change isn't a lightning strike. It's a steady fire. It doesn't scream, it hums, quietly, relentlessly. Every hour you protect builds a layer of inner strength that can't be shaken by external chaos. And that's why so few people actually transform, because the process isn't glamorous, it's not dramatic, it's simple, repetitive, quiet, and boring to the undisciplined. But to the awakened, to the one who's tired of living the same day on repeat, to the one who knows they're capable of more, even if they can't yet prove it, that hour becomes the most beautiful part of the day. It's where the seed of everything extraordinary is planted, not for the world to see, but for your soul to feel. Because the day will come when people ask you, how did you change? And you'll pause and remember the mornings when you almost stayed in bed, the evenings when you almost said, I'll start tomorrow, the busy days when no one would have blamed you for skipping it, but you didn't. You showed up, you sat down, you moved, you wrote, you read, you built, while no one noticed. And that's when everything started to change. No one sees the quiet victories. No one claps for you when you open that book instead of picking up your phone. No one cheers when you sit alone with a blank page, trying to face the truth you've avoided for years. No one applauds when you choose reflection over distraction. But those are the victories that change your life. Because while the world worships performance, transformation happens in preparation, in solitude, in discomfort, in the decision to do the right thing when no one would know if you didn't. And when you protect that hour, something begins to shift inside you, something subtle but powerful. You start to trust yourself again, not because you've achieved something massive, but because you finally kept a promise to yourself. You said you'd show up, and you did. You said you'd use the time for growth, and you did. And that self-trust, that's the foundation of everything. You can't build confidence without it. You can't build a meaningful life without it. You can't build anything real if you're constantly betraying yourself in small, quiet ways that no one else sees, but you feel. And the moment you decide that you deserve to be kept, that your promises matter, everything changes. Because now you're not waiting for the perfect moment, you're creating it. You're not waiting for the mood to strike, you're summoning it through action. You're not waiting for someone to lead the way, you are leading yourself. This isn't about hustling, this isn't about burning yourself out, this is about taking back your mind, your time, your power. One focused hour at a time. You don't have to figure it all out today. You don't have to fix everything by Friday. All you have to do is keep showing up. 1 hour, every day, no matter what. You move your body, not for a goal, but because it reminds you that you're alive. You write, not to be perfect, but to be honest. You read, not to impress, but to understand. You build, not to be praised, but because it is the most sacred act of reclaiming your existence. Let the world spin, let others scroll, let them run from the silence. You've run toward it because you know now that the quiet places are where real strength is born. Most people fear the silence, not because it's empty, but because it's honest. In the silence, there's no audience to impress, no distractions to hide behind, no noise to drown out the ache. In the silence, it's just you, face to face with the gap between who you are and who you could be. And that moment, that's where freedom begins. You might feel discomfort. You might feel the pull to escape, to busy yourself with anything that numbs. But stay, sit, breathe, let it sting. Let it show you where you've been avoiding yourself. Because growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from confrontation. And what you're confronting is not weakness, it's your potential, buried under layers of delay and denial. When you stop bargaining with your time, when you stop telling yourself you'll start tomorrow, you begin to live like you mean it. You begin to rise with intention. You begin to see your hour not as a break from life, but as the birthplace of the life you were meant to lead. This is not self-help, this is self-respect. And it starts small. A 5-minute stretch, a paragraph in your journal, a walk without your phone, a page from a book that rewires the way you think. A single hour, protected like treasure, becomes a quiet revolution inside you. And that revolution doesn't need to be announced. It will show in your posture. It will show in your clarity. It will show in the decisions you no longer delay, in the boundaries you now keep, in the dreams you no longer shelf. And yes, it will get hard. There will be days when it feels pointless, when you'll want to skip it, just this once. But remember, skipping once is a crack in the armor. Skipping again is a habit forming, and habits shape identity. Who are you when it's hard? Who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when discipline feels heavier than inspiration? Is the answer to that question. That's who you really are. And you can become someone new, someone grounded, someone focused, someone who doesn't need to tell the world they've changed because the world will feel it in their presence. But it won't happen by accident. It begins with one sacred hour a day, repeated until it no longer feels like a challenge, but a part of who you are. Not an obligation, a privilege. And slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, that hour becomes your anchor while everything else in your life shifts. Deadlines, emotions, relationships, expectations. This 1 hour remains solid, unshaken, yours. And in a world that constantly demands you to be something for everyone else, that hour whispers the truth. You belong to yourself. Not to the noise, not to the pressure, not to the performance, to yourself. This is your territory, a place where your dreams aren't mocked, where your thoughts are not edited for approval, where your doubts are seen, heard, and healed, a place where you're allowed to become who you were always meant to be. Because here's the thing most people don't tell you. Transformation is not about adding more to your plate. It's about removing what never belonged there. The lies, the habits, the identities you outgrew, the stories you inherited but never chose. And 1 hour a day gives you the space to strip all that away, to sit with the raw version of yourself, the version that's unsure, the version that's flawed, the version that's still healing, but also the version that's still fighting, still hoping, still trying. And that is enough. The world keeps telling you to be faster, richer, louder, tougher. But this hour reminds you, you don't have to outrun anyone. You just have to outgrow who you were yesterday. Not with judgment, but with consistency. Because when you show up for 1 hour, especially when it's hard, you start to carry yourself differently. You're no longer seeking permission to evolve, you're giving it to yourself. And that kind of self-given permission, it's unstoppable. You no longer need to be motivated. You're moved by something deeper. Integrity, a quiet inner contract that says, I will keep showing up, not because it's easy, not because I feel like it, but because this matters. Because I matter. That's what most people miss. They look for change in the mirror, in their bank account, in someone else's approval. But real change? It's not seen first. It's felt. It's lived. It's built one quiet hour at a time when no one is watching and nothing is guaranteed. And that kind of change, no one can take from you. You'll start to notice it in the smallest ways, the way you respond instead of react, the way you pause before slipping into old patterns, the way you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. That hour changes how you carry pain, how you process fear, how you rise after setbacks. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens, and once it does, there's no going back. You've tasted your own power. You've seen what's possible when you stop asking for permission and start acting with purpose. And what's more, you begin to remember. You remember that you were never meant to live on autopilot, that you weren't born just to meet deadlines, reply to emails, and call it a life. You remember the dreams you shelved, the questions you stopped asking, the fire you thought had gone out. It didn't die. It was waiting for you to slow down, to return, to get quiet enough to hear it again. That hour is how you listen. That hour is how you return. And yes, life will try to steal it. People will demand it. Your old habits will resist it. The world will not make it easy for you to protect that sacred space. But that's the test. That's the moment you prove whether you're serious or just interested, whether you're ready to become who you say you want to be, or whether you're still waiting for a sign. This is your sign, because once you claim that hour as non-negotiable, something inside you stands taller. You become someone who honors their own time, someone who no longer apologizes for growth, someone who has learned to say the most powerful words a person can say to the noise around them, not now, I'm with myself. And that is not selfish, that is sacred. Because when you show up for that hour, you don't walk back into the world the same. You're clearer, stronger, grounded. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. Your presence says enough. That presence was built in silence, built in solitude, built when you chose to be the sculptor of your own life, not just the survivor of it. 1 hour a day is not a luxury. It's not optional. It's the beginning of a revolution. And that revolution starts with you. You don't need an audience. You don't need approval. You don't even need results right away. What you need is to keep showing up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because that's when it matters most. Anyone can show up when they're inspired, when the path is clear, the energy is high, and everything feels possible. But the hour that defines you, the one that shapes your future, is the hour you protect when it feels pointless, when you're tired, when you're tempted to quit. That's when transformation happens. Not when the sun is shining and everything's going your way, but when you rise in the dark, when you sit with the frustration, when you hold the line for yourself when no one would blame you for letting go. That's the kind of strength that can't be faked, the kind that grows quietly beneath the surface until one day the world looks at you and wonders, where did this person come from? They won't know about the mornings you woke up when you didn't want to, the nights you sat in silence with your thoughts, the countless hours where it was just you, your discipline, and the decision to keep going. They'll call it talent, they'll call it luck, but you'll know the truth. It was 1 hour, over and over, like a prayer, like a promise. It wasn't grand, it wasn't flashy, but it was yours, and you never let it go. And that is what made all the difference. Because success isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the shadows. It's built in the hours that no one sees, the ones you could have skipped but didn't, the ones you could have traded for comfort but chose growth instead. That's how the future is shaped. Brick by brick, breath by breath, one focused hour at a time. Not someday, not soon, now. While the world sleeps, you rise. While others drift, you build. While excuses multiply, you choose differently. And as the days pass, the hour you once had to protect begins to protect you. It protects you from the chaos, from the overwhelm, from the feeling that life is happening to you instead of through you. Because that hour trains more than your habits. It trains your mind, your emotions, your spirit. It reminds you that even in a world that feels out of control, you are not. You have power. You have say. You have 1 hour where the world doesn't get to decide who you are. And that's more than enough. Because in that hour, you don't just become more productive. You become more present. You become more patient, more honest, more calm in the face of noise. And what starts as 1 hour of discipline becomes a lifetime of direction. The people you admire, the grounded ones, the unshaken ones, the ones who don't crumble in the face of pressure, they weren't born that way. They bled for that peace. They trained for it, quietly, consistently, in the still corners of their day, far from applause, far from recognition. And so can you. You don't need a new schedule. You don't need better tools. You don't need someone to come hold your hand. You just need to stop waiting. Stop waiting for life to calm down. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for the right time. Because time isn't waiting for you. You are either using it or losing it. And the cost of losing it is everything you say you want to become. So start now, before you're ready, before you feel like it, before it all makes sense. Choose the hour. Choose the blank page. Choose the walk. Choose the breath. Choose the moment where you meet yourself. No mask, no story, no shame, just truth. And repeat. Because repetition is the language of mastery, not intensity, not emotion, repetition. It is the steady echo of action that tells your mind, this is who I am now. And when your mind believes it, your life follows. You don't need proof. You don't need praise. You just need that one quiet space day after day where you show up without needing a reason, other than the fact that you are worth it. You are not what you say you'll do. You are what you consistently do, even when no one's watching, even when no one claps, even when the world offers you every reason to quit. That's the measure of a life with direction. 1 hour a day may not look like much from the outside, but inside it's building a different kind of architecture, one made of trust, not talent, of action, not intention, of presence, not performance. Because we've been told the lie that greatness is loud, that transformation is visible, that success is something you wear. But that's not how it works. Greatness isn't a spotlight, it's a shadow, formed by the hours you spent shaping yourself in the dark. Transformation is quiet. It's the moment you decide not to escape your emotions, but to sit with them, not to avoid your truth, but to write it down, not to talk about change, but to become it. And success? Success is the freedom of knowing you no longer need permission to grow. That freedom is earned 1 hour at a time. When you use that hour, really use it, you start to notice something strange. You don't get tired the way you used to. You don't feel lost like you did. You don't reach for distractions so quickly, because now you have a compass. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's yours. And it points you inward every single day. Because the greatest gift you can give yourself isn't motivation, it's direction. And that direction isn't found in a plan, a program, or a pep talk. It's found in discipline, in devotion, in doing the work when the work is hard. That hour becomes a sanctuary, a sacred appointment with your own evolution. Not rushed, not forced, just honest, just yours. And in a world where everything is trying to steal your attention, the most radical thing you can do is to keep it, to hold it, to aim it, to focus it. Because where your attention goes, your life grows. And when you give 1 hour a day to what matters most, you're no longer hoping for change. You're building it. You start to feel it, not just in your mind, but in your body, in the way your chest rises with clarity instead of heaviness, in the way your feet feel planted instead of drifting, in the way you look at your own reflection and see someone becoming, not someone apologizing. Because when you give yourself that hour every day, you're not just building habits, you're building identity. And identity is everything. You may stumble, you may miss a day, you may feel like you're going nowhere, but one thing remains unshaken. You know who you're becoming because you decided. That decision doesn't shout, it whispers. It walks with you through difficult choices. It stays with you when motivation fades. And most importantly, it reminds you that you don't need anyone to rescue you. You were always the one meant to rise. That hour becomes the moment you return home, home to your values, home to your courage, home to the parts of yourself that you left behind because the world told you to be too busy, too tough, too distracted to listen. But no more. Now, you choose silence over noise, discipline over delay, substance over spectacle. You no longer chase energy, you generate it. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped giving your strength away to things that don't matter. You move differently now. You wake up with direction. You don't run from the mirror. You sit with it. You ask real questions. You hold your own gaze. And when the world tries to pull you back into passivity, you'll have a place within you that refuses, a place carved out by the hour you never gave up, the one you fought for, the one that changed everything. And one day, without fanfare, you'll notice you've become the person you were waiting for. You'll be sitting there, book in hand, thoughts sharp, heart steady, and you'll smile, because now you see clearly. The miracle you were looking for didn't come from outside. It came from that 1 hour, repeated with love, with fire, and with unshakable resolve. And here's the part no one tells you. The world may never thank you for doing this work. You may never get a trophy for waking up early. No one might notice that you moved through pain instead of avoiding it. There may be no audience, no applause, no spotlight, but that's not why you do it. You do it because there's something inside you that refuses to live asleep. You do it because you know there's more to life than surviving. You do it because the cost of staying the same, of betraying your potential, is far greater than the discomfort of change. You don't need recognition, you need alignment. And alignment is earned by showing up for yourself when every excuse would be valid. Yes, you're tired. Yes, life is hard. Yes, the odds seem stacked. But none of that is stronger than your decision, the decision to not wait for a breakdown to finally change. The decision to not hand over another year to mindless habits. The decision to become the kind of person you said you'd be and finally mean it. You are not here to blend in. You are not here to make peace with mediocrity. You are here to wake up, to come alive, to shake off everything that made you doubt your own brilliance and say, this is my time, and I'm not giving it away anymore. So take it back. Take back your hour. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. Not in the dramatic sense, but in the realist sense of all. Your life's direction depends on how you spend the hours you can control. Not the chaos, not the noise, not the obligations. The sacred hours. The ones before the world gets in. The ones when you're still enough to hear the truth. Give yourself one of those every day. No bargaining, no distractions, no apologies. And if you do that not once, but with relentless consistency, the world around you will begin to shift because the world within you already has. And when that shift takes root, deep, invisible, unshakable, you'll know. You won't need proof. You won't need someone else to say it. You'll feel it in your bones. In the way your thoughts are no longer filled with chaos. In the way your choices carry clarity instead of confusion. You'll feel it in the way your heart no longer panics at the silence, because the silence is no longer empty, it's sacred. It's where you meet your highest self. And in that space, fear loses its grip, not because life stops being hard, but because you've become harder to break. You've trained yourself not through pressure, but through presence, through the quiet, patient building of your own resilience, 1 hour at a time. This isn't about routines. This isn't about productivity hacks. This is about reclaiming the essence of who you are before the world convinced you to forget. This is about dignity, sovereignty, power. This is about walking through the day knowing you've already honored yourself before anyone asked anything of you. Because if you win the first hour, you don't chase the day follows you. The world bends differently around someone who is anchored, someone who is clear, someone who does not need external structure to live with internal order. And that's what this hour gives you, order. In a world addicted to urgency, this hour is your calm. In a culture of reaction, this hour is your response. In the chaos of constant distraction, this hour is your compass. You won't need to force results anymore. You'll embody alignment, and results will follow. You'll walk with stillness in storms, not because the storm isn't real, but because you are rooted now. Rooted in rhythm, rooted in discipline, rooted in the unshakable truth that you did not wait to be saved. You built yourself. You did not wish for transformation. You earned it. And you did it not by overhauling your life in a moment, but by protecting a single sacred hour every single day. 1 hour that belonged to no one else. 1 hour that taught you how to breathe again, to move again, to believe again. And if you ever doubt again, and you will, just return to that hour. Return to the page. Return to the walk. Return to the silence. Because everything you're looking for out there begins right there, in the most powerful space of all. 1 hour, just for you.